Okay, I think we are live. How's things today, Mark? You look rugged up, mate, and I know that I talked to you last week and it was hot where you are, and now you're in a jumper, mate. What's going on?
It was this morning when I walked to work. When I usually walk to work, it was -2°C, and last week it was 35°C.
Holy,
so it's
-2.
Yeah, it was ice on the cars and on the road. So we've fallen into a deep winter kind of trough right now. First time actually since winter started. Last week we had this radically 30-degree, 25-degree, too warm. So it's just crazy. Tonight we're expecting 12 inches. So what is that? 30 centimeters of rain. So it's going to be pretty intense.
Yeah, wow. That is crazy because, yeah, I remember we were chatting last week and it was hot, and even
big waves. It's still big waves.
Yeah,
they got a 7-meter south swell here right now, which is very unusual for us because most of the time we get west and northwest swells.
I have been watching a lot of YouTube, watching Jaws and all those guys.
Oh my gosh, it's been crazy.
It's been a fantastic season. Even Hawaii, actually. Hawaii Pipeline's been big too.
Yeah.
But I showed you out the front door this morning before we went live, and it's a cracking day here with a bit of surf too. It's been good the last few days.
Yeah.
I've been catching up after a long winter of having a sore shoulder. Shoulder's back in action.
Good.
Yeah, it's been fun. So today we're talking automation and how that's kind of helping conversions and just helping businesses grow. And I don't want to just say sell more stuff, because that's not always the first purpose of what we're trying to do. And actually it's a big part of the way I use automation is to actually make the sale a second, third, and fourth step, really, by whittling people away. But we'll talk more about that. And I guess in 2021, or really since the start of 2020 and moving into 2021, automation has changed a little bit. And well, I guess how smart people are using automation is changing. There are still a lot of people pushing straight to the sale, which is actually costing companies a lot of money. I've noticed that a lot just in the work that I'm doing with clients, and what I'm hearing from other clients and prospects that are coming to me complaining about their cost per lead and cost per sale and cost per call booking and all of those things. It's interesting to hear what people are actually paying and the budgets and that sort of thing that people are using. What have you heard lately, Mark? I'll let you kind of, what's been going on in your world. I'll go, we'll kind of expand on the conversation, but I just want to open up there.
Well, one thing that I've noticed, I've had about 500 conversations since March of last year with business owners to kind of keep track of what's going on. And universally, what I'm hearing is it's increasingly difficult to maintain engagement with their clients and their employees because of this remote virtualization due to the pandemic. And as a result of this, the amount of online traffic in all channels, and I'm talking about Messenger and SMS and email and all of the different channels, has taken a huge step up. And so the noise, the level of noise is huge. Email conversion rates have really dropped because there's just so much stuff out there. And it's compounded by exactly what you said, is like all of these novice marketers that are not used to marketing online are sending out emails, buy my stuff, and they're, putting up ads, buy my stuff.
Yeah.
And really, the to your point, and I think this is what we should be talking about today, is the development of a nurturing process that is designed to, number one, qualify, and number two, align, and number three, engage prior to ever asking or ever offering to pitch anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I see an ad. There's a guy running an ad here in Australia, and I'm sure it's running around the world, but he runs an ad, and his opening line in the ad is, coaches, consultants, business owners, are you trying to bleep expletive your prospects on the first date? And it's pretty true. It's
It
pretty
is true.
true. It's interesting. I deal in a few different markets, but predominantly in the real estate sort of market. So I'm getting a good vision across the board of what's happening in that market, and just seeing the same old. They're actually, marketers are using tactics and strategies that were 4 and 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And, people are paying, kind of $150, couple of $100 up to $300 to get a booked call with an unqualified prospect.
Wow.
And for me, in what we're doing, we're getting booked calls with qualified prospects that are eager to purchase for around $50, $54.
So
And
here's an insight on that.
Sure.
And that insight is, we've both been in this space for a long time, on the online space. And we have watched the evolution of product launches and different online campaigns and different advertising strategies, whether it be Facebook or PPC or SEO or whatever it is. We've seen all of these different things, and we've evolved with them over the years. And when I see and when I hear what you're describing about people using strategies and tactics that are 4 and 5 years old, and they're paying the prices that they were paying 4 and 5 years ago, what that tells me is that we are way ahead of the curve. We're way ahead of where that market is. And as a result, we can use our experience to basically prophesize the future for the people that are in that space, because we've already been there. We know what it's going to be like.
Well, yeah. And it's, to me, it's funny. It's funny hearing you say that. I don't see myself as ahead of the curve. I see myself continuing to innovate and keep up with the curve. And I like to, yeah, you go.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's ahead of the curve in that market.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
this is what I did in Europe when I was working in Europe, and we were 10 years ahead of what was going on in Europe. You just back it down, and you deliver the content and the information that is relevant to where they are on their journey, not where we are in our journey and our expertise and our innovation. We're Albert Einstein compared to, I just listened to Einstein's biography. That's why I say that. And he was joking around and, and being really imaginative and goofing around and all this kind of stuff. And everybody was, completely blown away by his intellect and what his concepts were. He'd already solved the issues that they were just learning about. So that's a huge insight for us.
It's funny. I keep forgetting that, that we're kind of, that we really are ahead of the curve compared to the average. And what I guess what I mean is, there's a lot of people in the market that are still catching up. And, we are just, I feel like I'm right on the cutting edge, and there's just a lot of people catching up. But it's been very interesting. I kind of, I always put out a post. Well, I put out a post every so often. It's probably every 3-6 months, something like that. And I'll tell everyone I'm zigging when everyone else is zagging.
Yeah.
And essentially, I'm staying on the edge of the coalface kind of thing. And to see people wasting clients' money is very annoying to me. Like, I'm very much results driven. It is probably my highest priority in, like, beyond building relationships and being friendly with a client. Results come way above that for me. And when I see people being sloppy, it's very annoying. You know, the automations and those sorts of things that I'm setting up are purely with results in mind. I'm not doing it to test something. I'm not doing it to please my own ego. I'm not doing it because I know best. I'm doing it because it brings the best result. And it's just very interesting to look into the marketplace and see what's going on, and see people spending so much in different areas. And it comes back to this, this idea of automation and how to improve automations and how we're improving automations at the moment. For me, in the real estate industry, I think that lead generation is old hat. Like, that's old tactics. People just going out and selling, oh, you need more Facebook ads, you need to spend more money on budgets, you need YouTube ads, you need Google ads, you need more ads. No,
Brute force.
that just means spending more money. You
Right.
need smarter communication is really where it's at. And automation allows us to make that communication smoother and simpler and more fluid for the actual reader, and more in alignment. I was on another forum yesterday and I spotted someone talking about this fact, how they're struggling to make connection with their emails. And it's like, it's very simple. Give them what they want. But and this is where the beauty of automation, it allows us to give them what they want. You can have so many variables without, you do the work once, it's good forever. It's such a beautiful thing. And setting up, they don't even have to be that complex. I run very simple automations, but those automations are segmenting. They are, essentially pushing away the people that aren't ready, or maybe nurturing those people depending on where they're at, bringing the people closer that are actually ready to buy. As you know, in the real estate game, it's big money, it's big dollar stuff. And that done correctly creates massive windfalls. We've had, really, really, really successful clients over even in the last year with COVID, had super successful clients because of the simple automations we're putting in place, but very strategic ones. Not, they certainly aren't sloppy.
And I think what I would like to interject at this point, James, is that I think there may be perceptions around automation. In the early days, it was a simple autoresponder sequence that you'd set up with a time delivery every third day, every day, after a link was clicked. That was a super simple automation. What we're talking about here, when you're talking about segmentation and personalization, essentially what we're talking about are logically driven or events driven automations. And this is one of the reasons why engagement with this type of an automated funnel is so effective, is because you're designing it based on rules that are designed to engage for the relevance of the reader. So they're getting a message that's highly relevant to who they are, not the general audience.
The way I like to explain it is user chooses. it's like those old books that you used
Yeah,
to
exactly.
be able to
Choose your own journey. Choose your own journey.
and that's the way it should be.
Exactly.
Automation done really well is a choose your own journey experience for the viewer, whether they want to receive a text message or they want to go to a certain web page, or they like, and I was showing you before we went live, just some of the automations and some of the, the open rates and that sort of thing that I'm getting consistently. Like industry standard, I looked up in the real estate market was open rates were about 16 to 19%.
That's high.
That's reasonably high.
We're seeing 4 to 6% email rate to cold emails here in the States.
Yeah.
So you're in a specialized market, and to have that's really good engagement right from the get-go.
Yeah. So
there's demand out there.
In our automation, or in the automations that I'm setting up, I'm seeing above 50 and up to as high as 84% open rates.
Yeah.
And click-through rate on the back end. So after they open an email, and then the click-through rate, the kind of the standard open rate for like the real estate market was, I think I'm pretty sure it was around 4 to 6%.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting as high as 37%. So it's a completely different game. And you have to think of this from a numbers perspective of, every 100 people, if you're going with the average, it's like say at the top end, 19 people open your email, and out of those 19, 3 might click a link. So in ours, it's like out of 100 people, 78 people are opening that email, and 37 people out of that are clicking a link. So the percentage, the engagement, the interaction, it's through the roof. It's I don't know what the multiple is there, but it's close to 10 times, on the click-through side.
And to me, when I look at analytics on the back end, the thing that tells me is that you've done a remarkably good job of defining a serious problem for the reader, and that they want that problem solved, that they're actively looking for more information about what does this mean to me and how can I make it better. And that's the key to engagement.
And it really comes back to, as we've spoken about in the past couple of weeks, doing your research, understanding the marketplace, so that you're essentially, you're still allowing them with automation to go on a user chooses journey, but every choice they make is actually something closer to what they want, instead of, taking them off on different tangents because you feel like teaching them something. You don't need to teach people anything. You need to do some research and find out what they want to know.
Exactly. That's exactly. And again, this goes back to one of our previous discussions about, when something happens, take the label off of it and realize there's only 3 outcomes: a positive outcome, a neutral outcome, and a negative outcome. The negative outcome moves you away from your goal. The neutral outcome just keeps you away from your goal. And the positive outcome is moving you towards it. So you've got to take those negative responses and neutral responses and convert them into the next positive step toward the final result. And this takes a little bit of thinking. And most people never get into the thought process deep enough to understand it. And that's exactly right about the research. You've got to know what's going on.
It's been really interesting. Like with one client in particular, I like setting up these automations. It really took about 3 weeks of whiteboarding, like understanding what the messaging is going to be at each stage, understanding where the flow is, like what that flow is going to actually do. But and this thing, most people essentially just open up their CRM. They type out a bunch of emails and they say, just schedule them day after day after day after day after day, with no forethought of what's actually going on in the reader's mind. As I said, it took about 3 or 4 weeks to set this up, but within well, between March and the end of the year last year, there was over $21 million worth of deal profits on the table. And that's because we understood, well, I took the time to understand the market and what they wanted and just what was going on in their mind. And it took a little bit of refining right at the start. We had about a month where we had to change a little bit of messaging. But after that, the open rates, the click-through rates have been like they've held solid between 84 and 50%. And this is over, you know, there's dozens of automations, there's dozens of emails. It's, you know, that's, the hard work was done at the start. You know, it's in the preparation that the result is created.
You know, it's interesting that you would say that, because you're in the real estate market, and a lot of the deals that you've done, you started off flipping properties, buying them, doing some rehab work, and then flipping them. And I've done the same thing. When my kids were going through university, instead of taking out student loans, we flipped houses, and that taught the kids how to do research in the market, figure out property values, learn the real estate process. And it's interesting that two of the kids have ended up in property management and commercial real estate as a result of that. So that was a really cool thing. But the reality is the money is made at the front end when you purchase, and the money is made here with the research. If you understand what's going on, you sense the opportunity, you know where the margin is, you know where the value is, and everybody wins when that kind of a scenario is laid out.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, we're using very simple, well, it's a very, I want to say it's a very simple automation. There are a lot of pieces to it, but from my perspective, I look at it and go, okay, what is the journey that the user wants to go on?
Right.
Some of them want to buy instantly, but are they qualified? Some of them are just curious about the product and want to know, you know, more about the product, or they're at the very early stages. Some need finance. There's different angles, and you have to think through, you know, because placing an object in front of someone, it's going to raise different interests. Doesn't matter what market you're in. And you have to account for all of those interests. You have to account for all of their reactions to that object. And then you have to think that through. And that's, like I said, 3 weeks on the whiteboard, just working through, okay, where are they at in that headspace? How many different types of people, like with different views of that object, are going to be seeing this page? Where do we need to go? How do we need to narrow them? How do we need to simplify them? How do we, like, there's a lot of questions to be asked in the opening stage. And, you know, I see people all the time going, oh, my business is failing, or my launch failed, or this product, I can't get it off the ground because and really it comes back to, you can tell they haven't done the research. You know, they don't understand the market well enough. Understanding the market allows you to build a simple automation, but a highly effective automation.
I've developed this process that I call perspective polarity. And essentially what it is that when you are doing the research into the market, you're finding what the problem is. And the polarity of that is the opposite. So if the polarity is the problem is I can't find financing, then the opposite of that is I have all the financing I need. So now you've got this continuum from no money to all the money, and that represents a gap, which now is, let me find people that have got money that are looking for people that'll find deals. And now all of a sudden we've just blown up the value that we can bring.
And like, understanding these things allows you to target, and this is, everyone thinks of, I think everyone thinks of marketing in a very, I guess, compartmental kind of way. They think ads, they think funnel, they think email, they think, you know, audio, they think podcast, they think video, instead of it all should be one, and it's all got to tie together from your ad through to your email, through to your text message, through to your, what it says on the page. Every word needs to be congruent. And I think a lot of people go wrong in the fact that they're compartmentalizing, okay, I'm going to go and write some email today, but they don't go and look at anything else around that.
Yeah. So I'm going to put the James hat on here. This is the simplification model, right? So when I hear a description of how marketing is viewed, I'm thinking, okay, these are all channels, and the ads in those channels are tactical. They are specific to that channel. Marketing, on the other hand, in the bigger sense, the most simplified sense, is the mechanism by which we drive demand for our offering. And we drive that demand through our channels, through our ads, through our messages, through our automations, all of those different kinds of things. So now we've got this model where the simplification at the bottom is demand. And then as we move up to more complexity, it's channels. And as we move up into even higher complexity, it's all the messages. And, even higher is, the related automation around the messaging that goes into each individual unique channel. So if you want to simplify it, it's like, how do we drive demand with the lowest number of moving parts?
100%. Yeah. I mean, you probably nailed my key thought when I'm looking at business.
See, I told you, I'm in James' head.
You put the hat on. You put that on. You've done well.
The tinfoil hat. The tinfoil hat.
Yeah, tinfoil hats. That's actually, we need to make some of those up sometime. You hear a lot of people talking about tinfoil hats these days. It's quite fun. Yeah, and this is the thing. There are many pieces to marketing. There are many pieces to automation. There's a lot of things that you can do, but I think also people are doing too much. They're trying to get fancy. Like, I see people, and normally I say this about copywriting, people try to get too fancy instead of just writing the basic things, like putting the truth down on the page. And that's the same with automation. People try to get too fancy. They want it to spin off over here and, light a bell and ring, like it's crazy.
Exactly.
Instead of giving people the simplest journey that they desire to go on to the end result. And I think, as I was saying, the open rates we're experiencing, 50% through to 80, up to 84% is as high as I've seen it. And this is over a year. This is held consistent for a year. And that brings a lot of results. And when you talk about in the real estate market, this is huge profits, and not gross sales. I'm not talking about gross sales of houses. I'm talking about actual deal profit.
Margin.
Yeah.
Talking about marginal dollars, the dollars that count.
Exactly. And it's, people, I think, a lot of marketers are very quick to talk about gross sales. Now,
I hate that.
It's pretty cheap. Yeah.
My saying, top line is vanity, bottom line is sanity. It's like, if you're talking to an advisor or a guide or a coach and they're not focused entirely on the bottom line, you got the wrong guy.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. You still see it. I mean, it looks very impressive, but there's a lack of truth behind it. And that's,
people want to see those big numbers. It's confirmational bias. So you show them the top line number and they think, oh my gosh, this guy must be making a ton of money. But then they realize that 75% of it is ad costs. And 40% of it is delivery of the service or product at the back end. So they're actually negative.
Yeah. I mean, that's well, we don't need to go into it.
Don't need to.
No, but just coming back to automation, what are some basic, like, do you have like a set of basic or a basic setup that you use or that people could use out in the marketplace? I know that at the very basic level, it's kind of one stream of email that goes out every day, and there's this 7 series follow up and all this sort of stuff. There are a lot of basic things out there, but is there anything that you want to highlight that people should put in place?
I think I can share with you a little bit of the strategies that I use that are very effective. When people land on my webpage, I want to be able to segment them right away. And segmenting them right away is not necessarily about capturing their information. So what I want to know is, let's just say, do I want to know gender? Are you a man or a woman or declined to state, right? However, whatever you want to do, right?
Pronoun.
What's that?
Pronoun. Are you a pronoun?
Are you a pronoun? Exactly. Them, they. So if I want to do that, I can create 3 checkboxes on the page saying, hey, to give you the best experience and the most relevant to you, tell us something about yourself. Yep. And if it's a business, do you fit into the under 1 million, the 1 to 3 million, or the 3 million to 10 million range? Well, right away, I've now segmented by gender and I've segmented by company size. And then from there, I can go in each one of those and segment by the industries that I serve. So let's just say I had 3 groups, under 1 million, 1 million to 3, and 3 to 10. There's 3 there. And if I segment into 3 industries, now I've got 9 segmentations and 2 genders. So there's 18 segmentations that I haven't ever asked for an email address yet, but I can look at my site analytics and I can see how many people came to the site, how many clicked on the gender, how many clicked on the size of the company, and how many clicked on the industry offering. And that helps me to understand where the interest is coming from. And I might run traffic to that website, paid traffic to that website for 30 days, see where the traffic is coming from, and then realign the content of the site based on the traffic that's coming there and the advertising that drove the content to that site. And a lot of times I'll drive content to different landing pages and use the same strategy on multiple landing pages. Then when I engage, I do the same kind of thing, is I'll create a if this, then that type of decision-making logic to where I might give them 3 links in a, 3 checkboxes in a email. And if they click the checkbox, then that's going to take them to that particular page. And once they're in that sequence, then I've got them in an automation email sequence that I can deliver additional content. I can send them to videos. I can send them, to different kinds of things that are going to help them move them along.
One thing, it's one thing I've found, and one thing I've found to be a very effective money saver is not to do segmentation on the front end.
In terms of what kind of money saver?
Ad cost, lead generation cost. So not so much ad cost, but like your ad has to be good to get the percentage click through, but lead cost, like opt-in cost. Not doing segmentation on that initial page reduces your lead cost massively.
So I think we're saying the same thing. Are we saying the same thing?
No,
I'm not asking for an engagement on the front page. I'm basically saying if you land on this experience from your visit, let's take you to the page where that content is.
Yeah. I do that after I've already got their email address. but
Okay.
I'm giving them massive value at the front.
Mhm.
So I've just essentially, I've researched the market well enough to understand what they truly want, what the people with high desire truly want. So in the
So you're down the road.
in
So
the yeah, in the advertising, I'm saying here, I've got this shiny toy,
right.
and then I'm giving them that shiny toy. And then after that, after they've already been filled up, full of shiny toys, then
Right.
I'm going, okay, now where do you want to go next? And that's where that user chooses journey begins.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that to be a massive cost saver. And it actually enhances engagement from that point forward. Because if they don't like the shiny thing in the ad, then you don't have to pay for them anyway.
Right.
So right at the start, lead cost is down at the ad level. And then once they click in to get that shiny toy, they get filled up with shiny toys. And then from that point, they're fully engaged. That reciprocity comes into play. Oldest trick in the book, give first. And then they're willing to give on the segmentation side and give you information. So I'm doing it behind the scenes, and I'm doing it in a way that they don't actually even know that they're being segmented. It's more they're choosing their own journey versus asking a question like, how a few years ago surveys became really huge, and a survey, they were popular for a while, but it's like no one likes to be surveyed. No one likes to be asked all 15 questions. But if you're being given options versus asked questions, and those options are very bright and shiny to you, I find that people are much more engaged and much more giving with their information and their desires. So they choose their own little path much faster. So that's just been one thing that's been working really well, just in reducing ad budgets and overall costs of booking calls and all that sort of thing. We're finding probably taking away probably 2/3 of the marketing budget is pretty standard.
Yeah. And I think I look at the customer journey, the adventure, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're coming to us with a problem, the hero's journey. They're coming to us with a problem, and we are the trusted guide. And so what we're doing is we're giving them enough information about that adventure that they're going to go down that road until they realize I need a guide to go much further, because this is getting kind of hairy at this point. This is getting a little steep, but getting, a lot of uncertainty here. I don't want to get lost in the jungle. I don't want to get lost, out there. So I need the guide that's the experienced, river rafter or whatever. And that's where we step in at that point, because we've nurtured them. We've provided them the value, which is essentially their background information. And the one thing I love about doing that, which is giving them information in advance that they can act on, is that it shakes the tree on all the charlatans that are out there. All the people that are coming with, the buy my stuff kind of a thing. I'm giving them everything that most of those people are trying to sell, because they're trying to sell old information and old ways of doing things, because they're just new into the game and they don't know.
And there's a time and a place for everything too. Like the coaching world, where coaches are teaching coaches to be coaches that are coaches, that still works. That old, from 5 years ago, drive them straight to a strategy session, make them watch a hour-long video, put them on a call, and that sort of thing works. That like the coaches that are coaching coaches that are coaching coaches are all doing that, and there's a place for that. But in the real markets, step outside that coaching wannabe entrepreneur market into real markets where people are buying real products. We're dealing with real people that are savvy, that know their numbers, that are, like the real estate market is completely different to that market. And yet most marketers are using coaches tactics in a real estate market, which is the wrong move. It rubs off poorly on your brand instead of really truly
It doesn't
understanding.
align. It doesn't align with the core drivers of why people are buying homes. You know, they're buying them either for investment properties or they're buying them for the home that they're going to live in.
Yeah.
And the motivation, the emotional motivations are different for that kind of a purchase, primarily because it's such a significant investment. It's such a significant transaction.
Yeah.
Not trivial at all.
Yeah, they want to be educated about different things. There's different, there's different kind of problems and solutions that they want to work through. It's a completely different market. So that buying cycle, although it can be very quick, it takes a different path versus, coaching entrepreneur market where it's like, okay, just show me how much of an expert you are and let me talk to you. Or show me how much of an expert you present yourself as in a fancy video, and then, put me onto a conversation. And I think this has lost a lot in kind of the marketing consulting space as well. I think a lot of business owners are being caught in that coaching market. They're watching that because it's so prevalent across, because it's been, the advertisers are pushing it out under the business consulting or business marketing banner, that a lot of normal businesses see that, think that they are experts, whereas, they're an expert in one particular field. And it's hence why people are paying more for advertising and, not getting the results that they truly can be.
I would agree.
It's a wicked web out there in the internet world. We need to be careful.
The dark jungle that we enter.
I think we should probably wrap this up here.
Good point.
Any closing comments, Mark?
Excuse me. No, I think automation is absolutely a critical component of effective marketing today. It's what allows us to engage and remain as highly relevant as we possibly can. I think generic messages that are just delivered on a time release fashion are still a component, still is useful, but it's not anywhere near as useful as it has previously been. The continued drive to relevancy, the more relevant we can be on an individual personal basis, the better our conversions will be. Simple as that.
Yeah. I think, you're right there. I just wanted to finish up with, for anyone listening, that the key piece of automation is to allow it be a user chooses journey.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be force feeding people. As I said, if you're in a market outside the coaching space, then have it be a user chooses journey more than a you trying to market and push to that person. Allow them to take their path or choose their path and give them the information that they want on their journey. I think if people think of it in those terms, automation becomes very simple, but also highly effective.
Mm-hmm.
All righty, we will wrap up there for the day. Well, as always, Mark, great chatting. We'll catch you again next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it as usual. First call for February already.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. We are at the end of January. That has gone quick. 2021 is well and truly on the way.
In the books.